Dan Lennington from Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty is standing by. Dan is a former federal prosecutor, and he has dealt with cases involving illegal aliens. I just want to get your sort of, gut reaction, Dan, first, before anything, on this Milwaukee judge who we have now learned through Pam Bondi not only led an illegal alien and his lawyer through her chambers into a hallway where they could escape ICE, but also apparently chewed out ICE and made them run around to go to the chief judge's office before they could execute their warrants. I mean, there's so much here that I'm just shocked. But go ahead, please.
Yeah, I have the criminal complaint that was filed in federal court this morning in front of me. It's a sworn statement by the FBI officer who made the charges against Judge Dougan. What was happening was that the ICE agents were in the building to serve an arrest warrant on Flores Ruiz. Flores Ruiz is a Mexican national who had entered the United States and then been deported already and then subsequently re-entered the United States. ICE did not know of his whereabouts, but he was recently arrested for domestic abuse. He beat up a man and a woman and sent them to the hospital. Milwaukee PD arrested him and booked him with 3 counts of domestic abuse, infliction of physical pain. So he was in the system. ICE learned about his upcoming hearing. It was a pretrial hearing, which was going to be in the Milwaukee County Courthouse. So ICE decided to go to the courthouse to arrest him in the hallway. This is very common by immigration officials and other law enforcement officials to arrest wanted individuals in a courthouse, because if you arrest someone in a courthouse, you know that they're unarmed. It is a controlled situation. It's safe. You can do it in the hallway. You can do it after the hearing. And the ICE agents were there sitting in the hallway. They had announced their presence. They told the security officers what they were there for. They showed their IDs, their credentials. They talked to the sheriff's office and the supervisors of the sheriff's office. They knew they were there, and they knew that this was very routine because actually it happens a lot. And so they were there waiting, and Ruiz was in the courtroom, and Judge Dougan found out that ICE was in the hallway because a defense attorney said ICE is out there. Judge Dougan on the bench said this is absurd. She put Flores Ruiz in the witness box or the jury box, we're not sure, which is an unusual place to put a criminal defendant. And then she went out into the hallway and berated the ICE officials. The affidavit says that she was visibly angry and agitated. Pam Bondi said on Fox News just now that she was screaming at the ICE agents in the hallway. She demanded that the ICE agents leave the building. And when they said, ma'am, we are here to arrest Flores Ruiz, we have a valid arrest warrant. The judge looked at it, claimed that it was, something that they couldn't enforce in that building, and then said, you're going to have to go down the hall to see the chief judge. She escorted the agents down to the chief judge's chambers, which is behind a series of doors, put them in the chief judge's area and said, basically stay here and wait for the chief judge. She then went back to the courtroom. Interestingly, when the ICE agents were in the chief judge's chambers, they found out first that the chief judge wasn't there. That was what they were first told. So they were clearly given the runaround. Judge Dougan goes back to her own chambers, back to her own courtroom, calls the attorney for Flores Ruiz up to her, sidebar. They take Flores Ruiz out through the jury door, which is a non-public door that only the jury is supposed to go through, and they vanish. Now, interestingly, the prosecutor who was there to prosecute Flores Ruiz for domestic battery was there with the victims of the crime. The man and the woman who Flores Ruiz allegedly beat up were in the courtroom waiting for justice, waiting to have their time in court, waiting to hear what the judge was going to do to solve their problems. The judge sneaks him out, Flores Ruiz, the back of the courtroom, sends him down the back elevator, and puts him out on the curb where Flores Ruiz runs down the street, and ICE agents who happen to be on the street see him and have to run him down and tackle him and arrest him. And so instead of the illegal immigrant subject to a valid deportation or subject to a valid arrest warrant being safely arrested in the hallway outside of the courtroom, which happens all the time in the Milwaukee County Courthouse. I've been there. I've seen people be arrested in the hallway. It's very common. The safety of that circumstance to basically create what apparently Judge Dougan thinks is the Underground Railroad for illegal aliens through her courtroom out into the street so they can run down the street. And then the officers have to put their own physical safety at risk and tackle the guy and arrest him. That's what she thinks is justice in this country. Because I guess because President Trump is president, all illegal immigrants are somehow innocent and not subject to due process or anything. They have to be sort of secreted out the back room of every courtroom.
Dan, the due process. Yeah. Remember, we've been hearing about due process. No due process, I guess, huh? I guess Judge Dougan, not a big fan of due process. Not in this instance, is she?
No, it's amazing because there are victims of crime who are there willing to testify against the man who allegedly beat them up and put them in the hospital. And those victims, who cares? Apparently, who cares about those victims? They'll have their day in court some other time. We have to make sure that Ruiz gets back on the streets and is not arrested anymore and can flee law enforcement at whenever he wants.
Well, and you know what? And then wait to get rearrested again after he beats the crap out of somebody else. So we're going to have another victim. We may have an officer injury or worse, but we're probably going to have another victim. And this is astonishing to me. So let me ask you this question. What's the culpability of the defense attorney? Didn't the defense attorney say, yeah, Judge, this is not right. He's a lawyer, right? She's a lawyer. This is not right. You can't do that. Anything, should we speculate about the defense attorney here?
Well, we have a lot of questions in this criminal complaint. There are a lot of people involved. There are a lot of unnamed and uncharged individuals who are involved with secreting away this illegal immigrant.
Mm-hmm.
The judge is charged with obstruction of justice and with concealing a fugitive from justice, basically. 2 charges, but this will be presented to a grand jury. And the prosecutor, I hope the prosecutor does his or her job, but they should ask questions about who else was involved and who else knew and who else participated in this. Because if 2 or more people agree to a federal crime and they take an act in furtherance of that, that is called a federal conspiracy. And a federal conspiracy can involve people who send emails, who send memos, who encourage others, who take steps to advance this. And there are a lot of people in the state of Wisconsin right now who are involved in this plan to obstruct justice. And I think it would be good for the prosecutor to ask who these people are, who is planning to obstruct justice in the Milwaukee County Courthouse and perhaps other buildings in the state of Wisconsin to obstruct ICE officers. And what are their names?
I agree with you. And Tony Evers has issued his DOA edict to not comply with ICE. He's given them the green light on this. Now, he may not be legally culpable, but he certainly is responsible in some respect for this. I want to ask about the chief judge, because Wisconsin right now has a email from the chief judge that's saying U.S. Customs agents came into the courthouse, blah, blah, blah. They identified themselves when they came through security. They went through the historic courthouse on the 6th floor. They were asked whether they had a warrant. The agent presented a warrant as well as their identification. They were asked to go to the chief judge's office. I mean, this is a whitewash. They complied. DCA Garbo and I spoke to the agents. They presented a warrant, which we copied. They were asked to wait until the court hearing ended. All of the agents' actions were consistent with our draft policies but we're still in the process of conferring on the draft. That certainly is an exceedingly mild reaction to what was experienced by those officers, and a judge that apparently is exceedingly upset with those officers to the point where she's making a scene and secreting them out the back door.
Apparently she had no trouble when ICE agents were arresting illegal immigrants in the Milwaukee County Courthouse during the Biden administration or during the Obama administration. I mean, this is going on for decades. This is not an unusual thing to do. This is why we have the county sheriff and the city police coordinate with ICE and tell them when they have someone in custody who is subject to a valid deportation order or a federal arrest warrant. People who have federal arrest warrants are turned over all the time in county courthouses and county jails and city jails. This is not unusual. But the fact that apparently we don't like President Trump, we get to start changing the rules and allowing criminals to run out the back door. I mean, I thought, judges were supposed to be called balls and strikes. They were supposed to put people behind bars. They're supposed to do the will of the people and enforce judgments and lay down sentences. And now they're involved in secreting fugitives out through the back door. This is absolutely outrageous. I do not think that we are going to find out that this stops with Judge Dougan. I think that it's very clear from the criminal complaint that I read that other people are involved. And if the Justice Department is going to be very serious about this, which I think they are, I think we're going to get to the bottom of this, and we're going to find out that a lot more people were involved than just one person. Crimes like this lead to federal prison. People who are convicted of obstructing justice and conspiracy to obstruct justice and who lead conspiracies end up in federal prison. And if we don't nip this in the bud, we're going to have thousands of judges around the country wanting to be the next Judge Dougan and wanting to get their accolades from the left as to how they saved the most recent illegal immigrant.
Dan, can she claim immunity because she's a judge?
Not for violating criminal law, no. Judges go to prison. Actually, judges go to prison a lot. Judges go to prison for committing crimes while they're wearing their robes. So, no, judges can take bribes while they're wearing their robes. They can obstruct justice while they're wearing their robes. The robe does not give them absolute immunity to do whatever they want.
Okay, so she doesn't get to claim, I was just doing my job, which was, a concern that some people had. Certainly I had it. And so this is ultimately going to be how hard the DOJ wants to press on this and how aggressive the federal prosecutor wants to be on this. But it seems to me, yes, that you're right, that there are more people involved in this, if not I don't want to say conspirator, it seems wrong, but certainly as people who had a heads up and did nothing to prevent this. And I want to know what's with the chief judge here. That email suggests the chief judge knew what was going on, even if the chief judge wasn't in the chief judge's chambers. And that seems to be a whitewash coming from the chief judge's office. In any case, Dan Lennington, I appreciate the time. You're great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye. Good.